Cha-cha.
Ha, cha,
Welcome,
cha.
cha-cha-cha. Jazz hands. Welcome back, everybody. We are on another edition of the Seed Collectors, up to volume 12. That's hard to do with two hands, man. I don't think it's possible unless you're like Edgar Montoya's like twin brother or something. He only had 11 though. That'd be difficult to get 12 fingers.
Heartbreaking.
So, yes. And I mean, no. Episode 12. That's where we are. Yes, episode 12. Thank you guys and girls for tuning in again. We have a lot of fun on this show, and you may notice we are short one member this evening. We are short Dave. He had some unavoidable things pop up at the last minute, so respect to Dave. I hope everything goes well for you, buddy, and we'll see you later this month. Actually, Dave's got something special lined up for later this month. Might be another 2-episode month here, so
Nice.
yeah, stay tuned to that one. I'm excited. Dave puts in the work, man.
He does, man. He does in the garden, in the live shows. I mean, he's doing it all.
He does. And battling you in auctions, which is actually how we came about. So for everybody watching tonight, James is a return guest. He was on episode 7 of the Seed Collectors. Go back and watch it. It's a fun one. Freaking a wealth of knowledge. And James, that's why, we wanted to have you back tonight. Both Dave and I were like, we need James. So thank you for making time and coming back to
absolutely, man.
Seeds, man.
Yeah, no, I'm very happy to be back. I love chatting about something that I'm so passionate about, and a subject that I mean, obviously, Dave and I have been friends for quite some time, and honestly, we met. If you didn't see the last one, we met actually battling it out for different charity auctions and stuff of seeds once upon a time, and honestly, we just kept up with one another from there. And when I started to notice that you guys were doing some of these, because he's always been really big into the collecting market over the last several years, and when I saw that you guys were doing something like this, I was like, hey man, if your buddy Chad, like seems like a great guy. If you guys want to have me on sometime, like, and do this, it'd be a lot of fun. And if you go back and watch it, it's a lot of laughs, and it's pretty much just half of it is just Dave and I just kind of cracking wise at one another the whole time. And yeah, it's awesome.
And me singing Vanilla Ice in the background. I was
That's true. That was on there. We do have that recorded for posterity.
It is. Of course, it doesn't take much out of me to start singing Vanilla Ice. So just a little nudge is all I need. Shout out Lugo Mez. He says rewatched the Mila conversation last night. That was a fun one too, with Mila Jansen, the hash queen. It was her birthday yesterday. So if everybody wants to go to her IG, and I think it's like, I want to say 80s, in the 80s. I hope I'm not adding too many years there, but she's the hash queen. I mean, come on, check her out. Mila Jansen from Columbia with Love. He says, awesome. And I know the Dabadoo events were just down there too. And oddly enough, Saturday, I'm going to have 2 winners from separate Dabadoo events on, talking about organic growing and how they do it all. But
nice.
That's that. We're talking seeds. And anybody who's watched the Seed Collectors shows know that I like to start out with a t-shirt. Usually the t-shirt I'm wearing, it's a company I like, products I like, people I like, seeds I like. We've done like Bud and Lather, Eagles Gardens. Last episode, it was FCP, Future Cannabis Project.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So anybody that goes on the Daga site, there are more than beans on the Daga site. Stop. Oh, Portal Dreams is tempting me. Ice Ice Baby chant starting getting louder. Man, what are you gonna do? Okay, so I'll skip that. I'm gonna go. I'm actually I make a couple different t-shirts myself. I have the traditional Twin Peaks logo, the owl that you saw. I like that one, but I wanted to wear this one for this show. So everybody, take a look.
Oh my gosh, is that fantastic?
Read it loud.
That is awesome, man.
So I joked on previous episodes, every time I say cookies or burner, I get $2. Bam. Thank you, burner. Appreciate it. Sure, there'll be more where that comes from. That's my retirement fund right there. I
There
just
you go,
make
man.
fun
There
of
you
cookies
go.
and burner. But so all right, so we got this one out of the way, and we actually kind of, I mean, we chat in the background, and we had some fun things to discuss on this show. We're going to talk about finding, new breeders, where to find
Yep.
some of these things, and maybe why that's important or something people should start looking for.
Yeah.
But we also got to have what's new. So
Definitely gotta have what's new, man.
what's new in the collection this time, James?
Well, to be honest, we've been doing a lot with we have been doing a lot of pheno hunting through some older heirloom landrace kind of work. So we've been getting into like some of the Afghan selection stuff, some of the work from Afghan selection. We got the Sholgar region. We got Kundos region.
Wow.
We're working through. Oh, and we got this is one of their old ones. I think this was the bulk hash plant one, actually, if I'm not mistaken.
And are these all regular?
They are.
Seeds?
Yep. Okay. These are 100% straight from heirloom, like legacy farmers out in different parts of Afghanistan. And to be honest, some of the better stuff that we parse through right now is really we've been doing a big pheno hunt of some of the stuff from Azad Kashmir right now, and that is what. During the mid 2000s, there was a huge boom of some just outstanding Hindu Kush Afghani plants that were making it into all of our genetics. The Afghani bull rider, the big red Hindu that Mean Gene used to work with extensively. A lot of those plants that honestly set us up to be able to make so many of the strains that are present today are sadly are gone. The cuts have been lost, or they for one reason or another they're gone from the gardens. And we have a very extensive mother room. We have about I think on last count, it's somewhere right around 50 mom plants in our garden, and our head grower is just a superstar and just loves taking care of them. But I acquire these from old head farmers all over the U.S. and beyond sometimes, and it's something that is really going without, is these beautiful pieces to a genetics lineage that just doesn't exist anymore. And so we were like, you know what, we got to get back into this a little bit more. And we've always been, all of the cuts that you'll find in our garden right now are pretty much all, I would say, nothing, maybe one or two strains, post 2015, 2016, but otherwise all stuff back going into the early 2000s, the 90s, even the 80s, some of it like a really old Durban poison plant that goes back to all the way back to early days. We have a 35-year-old Indiana bubblegum original.
Okay.
We got some really interesting stuff like that. But those all came from a beautiful combination of landrace and heirloom genetics. And so we really wanted to start from the ground up a little bit with some of our projects, and figure out exactly what we needed to do to build put those building blocks in order, so that when we come to the garden, we are really confident in what we are getting consistently time and time again. And to be honest, if we're passing out seeds to anybody else, if we're sharing genetics, if we're doing whatever, there's no way in the world that my team and I are going to share genetics that aren't like tip top shape, that aren't going to produce the very best medicine or flower that we can possibly make happen for somebody, because I am not going to put that in somebody's hands and say, oh, good luck with this. It's not going to happen. So been doing a lot in that area. We also have some fun, some exciting little star dog hunt that we're doing, which is kind of fun, of some of the old like 2015 stock of some star dog stuff that we go back, little bit of a ways with, and then we've been doing some early I know this has been a bit of a controversial situation, but I still love his work, and it's Bodie, and I understand that there's a lot of hit and miss out there for the Bodie fans. And I don't ever want to put I think it's very sad that he went to work with a guy like Berner, but you know what? We don't know his situation. I know he
100%.
has a little one who has some pretty serious medical needs, and somebody like myself who has to constantly care day in and day out for my own severe medical illness. I'm not going to go ahead and tell somebody that they can't go and do whatever they need to do possible to make that happen. That's just the way it is. And it doesn't take away from the extraordinary work that he has, previously. I mean, we've acquired some really wonderful strains, the Mother's Milk, Goji OG, pretty much every Nepali OG, Goji OG cross out there. We have, so in spades, because frankly we were really really keyed up to find some work to cross with a really special cut in our own garden. But that's kind of where our work has gone at the moment. But tell us, Chad, a little bit about what you got going, man.
Yeah. Well, I've got a few new things coming up here, and touching on earlier, talking about some of the Afghani strains, and one thing that I didn't realize initially. You hear Afghani, you think it was Afghanistan. Obviously, there's the association, but there's a lot of regions. All these green regions here are different areas that cannabis is grown. The gray is kind of not mapped out, but these are different regions in Pakistan. And you were saying them out, the different regions. So as you can imagine, this is a wide swath. I like that word. A wide swath of land. That sounds so smart right there.
Absolutely.
It's a large swath. It's a cornucopia of possibilities. I had to say that like this. Yes,
absolutely.
Okay. But you really do get a lot of different varieties. Now, a lot of it is high elevation. A lot of it is cold weather. So it tends to give you a pretty hardy plant. Where I'm at in the Pacific Northwest, things that can handle cold and a little bit of moisture and finish faster are a plus for me. So those are some interesting things that you might pull out of there. And it kind of, you're talking about your projects there. That's kind of one of the foundations of how I approach work, is like, I want to start with something that is older, that doesn't have as complicated genetic background, something that pretty much gives you consistent expressions.
Absolutely.
I won't lie, it's not going to be the highest THC percentage, and it's probably not going to be, rainbow belts terpenes, but there's magic in there. And it also allows me, and I imagine it allows you and your facility too, to identify what plant is passing on what. Because the whole there's many points to it, but one point of breeding is to isolate particular genetics or traits that you enjoy. And if you just have a big combination of genetic potential, it's hard to isolate and nail it down because there's so many combinations. So if at least half of my initial breeding stock is plain Jane, but still solid,
Yeah,
it helps, but it also brings back the hybrid vigor. We see
absolutely.
a lot of strains today. They all have similar backgrounds. And I'm going to toss this one out to chat. I have seedfinder.eu pulled up here on the other screen. I just want to ask you guys what you use for, I don't know, just information about strains. Granted, there isn't one that's going to have the accurate story for everything, but some are better than others. And
Absolutely.
Seed Finder EU seems to be one of the better ones. And you were talking Stardog earlier, and
Yeah.
I'm like, that's a top dog, isn't it?
Yep.
So I
It
punched
sure
that
is.
in,
It
and
sure
that's
is. Yep.
pretty powerful one. But
It is, and you got a couple different cuts of her that you got the Corey, which the Corey Haim cut, which is it's not as people say it's not as commercially, it just doesn't eat quite as much as the cut does, but I don't care.
right.
It's a better, it's just all around in my opinion, my head grower's opinion, and to be honest, we do a ton of outreach to people, and before we put things on the market, we have people test them. We have lots of
Mm-hmm.
people try different strains and just tell us, hey, you know what? Can you just give us a rundown of what is this something that you enjoy? Is this something that meets your requirements or not? And then we know kind of out of a group of 30, 40 people, maybe even more, depending on how much, we want to work a project before we kind of think about, okay, are we really putting this out into the public, is, making sure that people are aware of, what sort of genetics they really, work best for them,
Yeah.
because I don't want somebody coming in, and needing to buy something from a dispensary or from a collective or whatever it may be, and them have no idea what they're getting themselves into. And so, I mean, one of the things that that we've kind of, wanted to start doing is, actually trying to put together like a sampler box, essentially, of about an eighth of about 4 or 5 different strains. We obviously, I'm not worried about the cost on it, to be honest. I just want to see what people come back to us with,
Mm-hmm.
as far as, okay, these two worked for me, these three, or these two definitely did not, and this one, I don't know, I couldn't really tell if it was a good fit for me or not. And then we know how to take that customer, or that patient, or that consumer. We know how to lead them down the right path to what's going to work best for them, and that at the end of the day is all we are about. Okay, we don't need to. There's no other worry in the world other than making sure that somebody who comes to us for help is getting the help they need.
Mm-hmm.
Period.
And everybody's endocannabinoid system is going to be different,
Definitely.
and that's why a lot of times I recommend more or less based off of terpene profiles.
Hmm.
I think that's kind of more effective than THC percentage, but there are
Oh,
some strains that help.
yeah, yeah. No, but you're absolutely right. I mean, I could go ahead and put 4 different strains in front of a person who's telling me that, oh, it's all about the THC, it's all about THC, and I can guarantee you that I will get you, that you will be stoned out of your skull with at least one of those strains that is maybe 16% THC.
Mm-hmm.
But the wide spectrum cannabinoid profile of that strain is going to knock you out of the park, and that's what the older strains do. That's why, a lot of times when you're going and you're finding strains of today, you mentioned this about having common lineage of all these different pieces. Well, they've all been parsed up so much now. They're all such a dense, plethora of different, family trees, that
Mm-hmm.
honestly you get like a 60-minute high from it at the most, and then you're just like, well, wait a second, this is this is weird. It faded away. And
Yes.
and it's like that's a problem. That's not what we're here for. We want somebody to experience what they need to experience, and help them get to where they need to be. And to be honest, that's why some of the best work out there, I think, right now are the people who are doing the very specific cannabinoid cannabinoid work, and that is one of the very best out there that I can recommend to people in our community, and also just an outstanding human being, and great guy to work with is
Yes.
Seattle Chronic Seeds here.
Yes.
If you go look him up, he has been a friend of mine. Actually, I will say that he is probably one of the first friends who I got to know very well a few years ago when I first kind of came on to the social. I literally knew nothing about social media whatsoever, truly, except for a LinkedIn profile for like my business and entrepreneurial stuff. And I started chatting with him, and he was telling me about all the work that he does, and I was sitting there as a patient going, oh my gosh, this is what we need. We need you. Please keep doing the work that you're doing. Oh my goodness. Because the way that he is able to isolate certain cannabinoids and make them very unique in these particular strains, can be a world of difference for people. And I would really highly encourage you to learn a little bit about his stuff. Actually, here, Chad, a good throwback for you that I got off of an auction not too long ago, and it was so silly that no one had bid on this. I talked to him the other day about this, that I found a pack of his rhino shit. Was what it is. It's a
beautiful.
It's a purple rhino, Pakistani Citro Kush, crossed
Okay.
with his famous Mac Tight that he's done for a long time. That's been around for, especially in the Pacific Northwest, for a while. And his stuff is just, he is breaking boundaries on a lot of the THCV work that people are just starting to get to learn more and more about. The CBG that he does is so impressive. And his pricing is so reasonable too. And I know that's something that we're gonna chat a little bit about here with, but
Yep.
I would really, really recommend him to anybody who's watching.
Yes. And Hoku, who that was a collaboration with Hoku.
Yeah.
They're also on the Daga site. They do their own work as well. Another person who, THC is not their focus.
No.
It's all these minor cannabinoids, and they push
Yeah.
some really interesting stuff. And for people who are looking for, medicinal effects, and they may find something that works a little bit for them, but not fully all the way. I encourage to play around mixing in some of these minor cannabinoids, with your flower or with your concentrate, make hash out of it. That makes those minor cannabinoids even better.
Yep.
But that's, one thing I like to recommend to people too. And I've got one here from Hillbilly Grower Herb. Cause I wanted to look for something that is just, really CBD focused. Speaking of focus, oh God, I'm not good at this. I've done this a million times, but there we go.
There it is, man.
Cherry wine CBD, it's a 50-1 CBD to THC. So I highly doubt this is going to make me very stoned.
No,
but I can mix this in with other flower.
Absolutely.
I can mix this in with other plants if I want to. So I was really excited to get these because, again, a little bit of variety, man. I mean, I almost think you need to change it up on your endocannabinoid system sometimes. That's why a lot of people, will get tired of strains after like smoking it for 3 weeks. It just doesn't hit them anymore.
Yep.
And that's actually one thing I look for in deciding to keep something. I'm like, can I smoke it for 2 months and still not have a tolerance or be tired of it?
Absolutely.
If so, let's dance. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's a very good point actually. It's a because let's be honest, when we harvest, that's kind of what we're usually working off of. I mean, unless we have a really extensive reserve, which sometimes, as growers we do. But other times, you're kind of depending on what projects you've been working on, or if you've not maybe not had the time in your own garden or whatever it may be, you're smoking out of those same jars time and time again. And so there are times, and I swear, just with the newer hype strains, man, after smoking them for a week or so, I personally, I'm done. I've tried with a few of them. I wanted to give a fair shake to certain strains and see what all the hype was about, and
yeah,
I just have unfortunately come up very disappointed in what I found, and so that's okay. Everyone has their own tastes. So
yeah.
yeah.
So okay, so we could think of, like Seattle Chronics doing some work with minor cannabinoids. We got Hoku
Yep.
doing work with minor cannabinoids. That pack was from Hillbilly Herb.
Hmm.
Um, are there any other? Dynafem was a pretty interesting group. They were in Spain, Amsterdam, that type of thing.
Yeah.
They unfortunately got busted, but they were doing some cool stuff breeding CBD into
Hmm.
traditional lines, like a CBD rich OG Kush. I know I had a 1-to-1
Mm.
White Widow that I really
Oh,
liked.
there you go.
Um, are there any other, breeders that kind of come to mind as far as people exploring the minor
Um,
cannabinoids in a THC rich environment, I guess, too, because there's a lot of hemp. Hemp is traditionally where we're seeing a lot of
yep.
these minor cannabinoids. Um, but there are a lot of THC
Um,
rich strains, I guess. I don't want to say rich because it's not 20%. Um,
no, no, no.
but you know what I
Yeah,
mean.
no, I know where you're coming from. I know that there is that group out of I believe they're out of Colorado. They've won so many different cups and everything else with the Alpen Glow stuff. It's like it's something like Valley or oh shoot.
Hmm.
They It's one of those ones I'm gonna have to like look up
Look
here
up. Yeah, no worries. I'm looking too in the chat here, and apparently Rico has an impressive seed collection we need to see. So just
okay.
reading
Well,
chat.
that's
But yeah, I also like to obviously chat. I like to get y'all involved because if you know people who are working with minor cannabinoids as well, holla, let us know so everybody else can know too. Again, the show, it's about seeds, and we've both got stacks of seeds here, and we're going to go through some. It's also kind of about educating, or well, that sounds fucking pompous, but trying to spread the word
yeah,
of
yeah, yeah, yeah.
some other
Yeah,
things.
no, I mean, I think that one of the ones that does come to mind for me was Professor P has always done
Mm,
the a lot of his he worked with let's see. He worked with some Ringo's Gift. He did a whole bunch of stuff with. He did. He worked with some Stephen Hawking Kush, I think, at one point.
I've heard that.
He's worked with his the consumption that he has is a CBD high alpine genetics. That's exactly what it is. Thank you, Malus. I'm
Yes.
sorry, I'm butchering your name, but that is exactly who. They do a marvelous job with their work, and it's still out there and out in the public for the public eye to go ahead and acquire and so yeah, I mean, you could go with something from them, for example, Professor P with Dynasty and the other one that he's affiliated with. That'll come to me at some point.
Right. As soon as we
High
hang up
moment.
here.
My apologies. But I mean, there are enough people who are exploring the combinations of things. I just think that it's it's really getting down to like how do we get the greatest expression of, like,
Mhm.
for example, THCV is something that for the most part has been bred out of cannabis plants. Period. Because it's essentially the longer you let those flower. So the only things that really come to mind, unless you've been working them, like for example, the captain over at Seattle Chronic has been working those for generation after generation to fine tune them. The closest thing that you're going to get from like a base generation strain is going to be a lot of those like African landrace sativas that just take like 18 weeks to flower. And most of us don't have time for that, or space, or
No.
50-foot ceilings to put them in. So
Yeah.
um
I just this last month had a very nice offer to test for a breeder who I really enjoy.
nice.
They've got great work. They actually sent the seeds. I had them in my hand, and I asked what the flowering time was, and I was like, can't do it.
Yeah.
So can't do it. I'm
Oh,
like, when it grows out, let me know because I'd love to smoke it, but I just couldn't do it. So, that is real. And yeah, it's the THCV does tend to be, or at least in my experience, I see a more an equatorial type sativa
yep.
plants.
Yep. That's it's very common that is the case. There are people that are doing some amazing work to bring those times down and everything else. Relic seeds, absolutely. Thank you, Disbanded
See
Brotherhood.
the
You
chat,
guys are you
the
guys are knocking
third,
it out for us. We
the
really
third
appreciate it.
window, the third window tonight.
So yeah, and that is a hard thing too. It's really, really difficult to be put in a situation where you have to decide, okay, can you make room for a 10, 12 week or 14 week
Yeah,
flowering time? And in most circumstances, no. But at the same time, I've had people come up to me who are like, you have a couple really amazing sour diesel cuts that we really love, and we really would love to see more with those. And it's like, okay, I got, those are typically like in that 12, 13 week range with these ones that I'm talking about going back to, the mid 90s. And, that there you have to give them that time. And when somebody comes to me and says, hey, look, this is something that's important to me, it's something that I really could use, that would be special, I'm sure as shoot not going to turn them down or tell them no. I'm going to
right.
figure out how to do it.
Yeah,
And so, that's kind of our thing, is like, we're not gonna turn anybody down or anything. I mean, unless you are telling me that I need 18 weeks to to put something in there, then I'm like, oh boy, okay, I don't know how I can do that. But I can stretch it for enough to make understand the reason why that particular sour diesel is so important. When you let that finish, oh my goodness, is it something special when it comes from a really great cut.
yeah, and I wish I did have more space or just even
Hmm.
a commercial facility, because I'd absolutely throw a couple. I'd have a room, I'd have a few lights of
Absolutely.
that going, because I do like it, and I do believe in the power of it. And me, like many other people, are kind of part of the reason why we don't see a lot of those anymore. It's just because it's so Amsterdam pays you, or used to pay, on days of flowering time. So you would
Oh,
actually be incentivized, or you could grow these long strains, and it was worth your
really?
while. It kind of flipped because it bit people in the ass, kind of like
Yeah.
DNA genetics when they were over there, because they've got a lot of like 50, 55 day finishing flowers that are just fire,
Oh
but
God.
they couldn't get anything in the coffee shops for
Yep.
it. So
Yep.
that's sometimes why maybe you see 9 to 10 weeks when it really
Oh boy.
finishes early.
Yep.
It's kind of funny. People used to always say it finished earlier than it really did. Now it's kind of like it finishes later.
Yes. Yeah, it actually benefits to leave it a little longer typically, but I mean, the grow experience too, some guys just know when their time to come down. It's like my head grower will be like, okay, yep, you know what, this is typically, running like 68 to 72 days, but I'm at 58 and I'm ready to take it down. And I'm just like, are you sure? And he's like, have I ever not been sure? I'm like,
What's
I'm
your
like, nope.
final answer?
Nope. Okay. I got it. I'm gonna back away now.
Well, we got a couple recommendations coming here, Malice again.
Oh,
Hoku the
wonderful.
Mad Villain, the CBG and THCV content.
Excellent.
Let's see here. Whoops, is that the right comment? No. Well, oh, things are scrolling me. There we go. Digaz, Mass Medical. That's another one that I've heard out there. Not ultimately familiar, but I've heard that. And another one that came to mind too was Oregon CBD. I can't believe I spaced that one from the top.
Yep.
But Oregon CBD is another breeder. Great place to find CBD, obviously, but some other minor cannabinoids too.
Absolutely.
So I see Sodak Med Grower just got some Cuban Missile Crisis seeds. That sounds good. Cuban Black Haze times the EQ Haze. Closest I got to that one is a Cuban Black Haze, which is Northern Lights times Haze times the Pina F4 from Mean Gene. And this is actually, this one is from the ranch.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
But again, it's hard to get the real stories out of all these because there's numerous real stories. But Cuban Black Haze allegedly is the mysterious piff.
Yeah.
So that's the story. So this I don't expect to be a quick flowering one, but it's still something that I'd like to look through.
Yeah, it's gonna be a little longer there for you. Skunk Tech went through and did a big project with Cuban Black Haze when they were doing their the gas company thing that they were doing together, with the OG family. Anyway, he had done some Cuban Black Haze crosses with a whole bunch of stuff, and they have some real positives to them. But the flowering time is real hard to beat. There you go, little burgers and beer.
See that one mentioned in chat too. I'm like, bam.
Yeah. You know what, it just depends on what your capabilities are, what your type of setup is, what you're willing to work with as far as the genetics go, and you do what you can with them, and there's some great strains that come from things that are very fast flowering versus stuff that does take a very long time. So it's there's no right or wrong answer.
No, and that that I'm kind of thinking about it, that could also be one of these identifiable traits for anybody who's sitting there and wants to start a project and who wants to breed. They have two things they like. One of them finishes in 50 days, the other finishes in 80. Yep. Well, pop your offspring and see where they start to finish. You see where it's leaning. That's an easily trackable trait.
Absolutely.
How long does it take to finish?
100%.
So you can get back there. And real quick too, I saw this one pop up. Oh, let me change the banner here because I like it when it's bubbles. It's easier to read the comments. Rico, it's one of those people always on the charity auctions. Rico, I know who that is now. I know him as Rico, but I've definitely seen you in the auctions, and I know you've pissed Dave off a few times, so hats off. That's not easy to do. So carry on.
That's fantastic.
Yes. As a fellow battle buddy of Dave's, James.
Yep, absolutely.
But you guys both do, and this is something too that he mentioned, because I again, I always take hats off to Dave because he gives a lot back. But he really sung your praises as well, as far as kind of giving back to the community through auctions, and you kind of just do this silently. But also now that we're having the conversation medicinally, which is really where I come from, TGA seeds, that's how I was introduced to Subcool.
Sure.
One of the driving forces behind that, as I understood, was they were looking for specific medicinal strains for specific people. And it just happened to be that other people liked them. Other people had similar medicinal effects. And I just thought that was great. I'm like, that's a good mission to have. And that's, again, kind of selfishly, I'm looking for the perfect medicine for myself.
Well, sure.
But I also know that it's going to translate to other people. And I guess since we're on the medicine tip and the generosity, I have mentioned that for my stomach, Bubba Kush and Katsu Kush really, really help. And James had sent me out some very awesome things. So Shramba, which is awesome because Shram is one of my wife's favorites that we haven't seen for years up here. Times the P98 Bubba. So very excited. And then also too, Katsu seeds, again, fantastic breeder. Anybody in chat, if you've run any Katsu seeds before, let us know what it was and how you liked it. But I've heard nothing but good things. And yeah, key lime kush. So the key lime pie times the pre-98 Bubba. Very excited to get these going.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
I remember you saying that you and your wife, the Schramm was a special one for you. And that was an early, that was an early strain that was part of the whole Martian mean green back back a long time ago. If you're familiar with the strain, that was a piece that helped to build up Schramm. And it's when I saw that and you had mentioned that, and Bubba Kush is one that is one of the best medicinal strains just in general out there for people. It has a number of different capabilities that will help with pain control, will help with digestive GI issues. I've had many people who have gone through chemotherapy treatments and radiation tell me that is, one of the more successful strains for them. I mean, we've gone so far as to make RSO with Bubba before, just to try and get that that extra oomph into the RSO. But there's different, there's even, there's different parts of the old Bubba Kush too, that goes back beyond the pre-98 stuff from Katsu and goes, back even further. And so, some of those actually give off, I think, an even better medicinal quality to them. And obviously, these historical facts and things get lost in the, everyone has their own thoughts on different things of how these came about. But this is so Shroomy 420 actually was a guy in the forums for a long time, and he grew. Not only was he responsible for the Shram, but he was also responsible for a absolutely mind-blowing original diesel that is just out of this world. Yeah.
Wow. So yeah, here's Stramba. That's what I was showing you earlier. And this, again, the seedfinder.eu. I tend to go here to track down lineage.
As do I with a lot of the stuff. As do I.
Yeah. So it's it's nice. And again, a lot of these names we recognize. And back to your original comments, you've got that base of Northern Lights, the Afghanistan indica. These were the bases for so many strains that we know today. It's almost like three or four generations removed. It kind of almost seems like in the beginning everything was like crossed with like an Afghanistan or an Afghani or a skunk, and then it kind of shifted. Everything got like crossed with like chems and kushes. And then the next generation was everything got crossed with cookies, and now gelato, everything's getting crossed with. So it is interesting to see these different building blocks over time, but also illustrates how ununique some of the roads that we've gone down are.
A perfect example, honestly, if people wanted to take a look at My head grower and I were having this conversation just the other day. Actually, was for those who are not familiar, there is a fantastic company that is called the Indian Landrace Exchange.
Yes.
On if you go onto their page on Instagram, they also have a website where they're able to offer their strains, and they're typically labeled under, now I believe almost completely under, the full power selections is what it's called. But if you go and take a look at the photos that were taken from their 2022 Balakistan selections that they chose for this 2022 year, those flowered plants look good enough to be put into a store or just right away.
Oh, I pulled up the wrong fucking
Yeah,
page.
no,
You're a
that's
scammer. God damn it. I hate that. Sorry, guys. I was trying to work on the fly.
No, it's okay. I would recommend, though, that just to, if somebody just if you go ahead and for those just listening, just take a second on Instagram and go take a look at the pictures from these, because I'm telling you that they are so gorgeous and such beautiful plants, and I can guarantee you they are going to pack one hell of a punch coming from that region. It is. And those plants are as hardy and resistant as they get. And to be honest, if they're coming up that way in the generation, the domesticated generation that they're presenting them in, I mean, if that's what you're getting as your final product, holy smokes. I mean, don't worry about anything else. Just go do that. I'm telling you. I mean, the flowering times aren't bad on them either. I mean, they're anywhere between 7 and 10 weeks. I'm pretty sure, if I saw correctly. I got on there immediately and pre-ordered from them because I was so impressed with their stuff. And they are such kind people as well that to be honest, you were so kind to sing my praises there for a second about being generous and whatever else. And to be fair, this is a community of really, for the most part, really wonderful people. And it's something where we should all be able to rally together to help one another. There shouldn't be even a question about that. When people need help, you do what you can to help them, whether it's in the way of a financial thing or whatever it may be. Helping them to get some flour. They just received a bad medical diagnosis, whatever that can be. You try to help them out. Sadly, there are certain people who do take advantage of those situations, and it's really sad because it does make
don't
people.
Call them Chads. But there are predatory people in this space.
Yes,
and it sucks because
it does.
A lot of people turn to this plant for hope. Yes. And when you're looking for hope, you can easily be taken advantage of because you want to believe. And there are the predators out there. But yeah, there are a lot of good people out there too. It's you hear about the one bad actor for every 100 good actors because good news doesn't make the news. But I think that the cannabis community does a good job of trying to support or at least shine a spotlight on these people.
Yep, absolutely.
We're all kind of in it together, and you can tell who's not. Yes. They're still in the industry. They're right next to you at the dab bar. Yeah, but you can tell who's on a different trajectory.
Yep. There's the people that just have the new Maserati outside versus the people who are sitting there and honestly just want to be able to
burner money.
And and that's honestly what I say to people when they ask about wanting to be in this industry in a legal market or whatever else. Is I tell people, look, all I care about is being able to take home the same paycheck that I took home from my previous position to support my family. Okay. At the end of the day, That's all that matters. And I'm able to do it with a passion of mine that is so great that it doesn't feel like work, but knowing that some of this does go and help people and get through some of their really bad days, which
Yeah.
I have a lot of them because of my own health. I can tell you that it honestly gets me emotional sometimes when people come and talk to me or tell me, "Hey, you know what? Those gummies, that strain, whatever it is, that really saved me, man. Like that did so much for me. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it." And you're just like,
It's priceless, dude.
there is
It
nothing
really
that will
is.
ever that will ever stand in the way of that. I mean, wow, does your heart just swell with joy when you hear that from somebody. So um it's important to make sure that we are all looking out for one another. And honestly, like, the last time I was on this show, I was talking about the fact that I have so many ridiculous amounts of seeds that I honestly need. I've needed people to run certain things, and I've
Mhm.
I've been like, hey, if you are interested in, maybe right now is a little bit of a hard time for you, and seeds, maybe you don't have a bunch of them lying around. If you want to run something for me of some kind, I'll be happy to try and help you out that way. The only thing I ask for in return is simply, if something comes of it that you find a really special plant, that you go ahead and share a cut of it. That's
Yeah.
with me. That's all. You keep all the flower, you keep everything else from it. I don't need a thing other than, just if there is something special that comes from it that we can share together. That's all I would ask of somebody. And honestly, I had a couple people get in touch with me and ask, kind of give me the story of what's been going on with them. And they have a
Yeah.
lot of experience with their growing and breeding, and we're just like, I'm just a bit down on my luck right now. Would you mind just, if you maybe could help me out with that? And I was like, heck yeah, man.
Yeah.
This is what that's why I don't need all the frickin' seeds, because they're just going to sit in the back of a vault. So while I love to help with those charity auctions, I also am like, I don't need any more seeds.
Yes. And that is kind of one fun thing about having a decent sized seed collection, because I'll talk to people, and they'll have one issue or another, and I'll be like, well, I'd like to try to help you. I've got this and it came to mind, and they're already growing, so I'm like,
Yeah.
how would you feel about trying this, and just letting me know.
Yeah.
That's huge, and I love to do that. And that is a great thing about having a good collection. And Mr. Toad is one of those guys who sends out a lot of things for free to
Yep.
veterans, to medical patients. He sent me a whole bag of
Such
stuff,
such a top-notch gentleman right
and every
there.
time, yeah, I'm almost starting to get low on his stuff, because every time somebody hits me up, I'm always like, I've got this toad strain that would be good for that. I've got a couple of my strains, and I'll dig through some of the other stuff as well. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, his is usually one that always goes out. And again, that's just kind of paying it forward. We talked about that
Yep.
before. Is just I'm never going to be able to pop all of these. I
No.
do want to,
Yeah.
and there are some that are definitely at the top of the list. But
Sure.
I want to see other people have health
Yeah.
and wealth, I guess, not because they're growing it and selling it, but because they don't have to go buy
Yep.
$80 grams of fico at the
Yep.
frickin' dispensary. Like,
Yep.
who can maintain a regimented
No.
medicinal schedule? I don't think many people can.
No,
So
well, and to be honest, that's the other issue. Is right now, the people going to the dispensaries, they're, for example, we're here in Michigan, and Michigan is so overloaded with crap in the dispensaries that
yeah.
they've had all sorts of product coming from other states that got secretly snuck in. There's a lot of different people looking into certain regulatory problems that have gone on here. And one of the issues is, that caused a lot of people, for after October, to shut their doors, because they honestly were not managing their business well, and the quality of the flour that was coming
Mm.
out of it was about as good as like the guy growing for the very first time. you know, and expecting somebody to pay, you know, 30 you know, dollars a gram or something, or 20, you know, $30 an eighth, you know. And I'm like, wait a second, you're telling me that you expect a medical patient to walk in here, or maybe they don't have a med card, but they still use it for medicine, or they use it to help them calm down or go to sleep or whatever else, and you expect them to pay for this?
As my wife would say, do I get a stripper with that? I'm always like,
I gotta meet your wife. Okay.
Yes.
I'm just telling you right now, we're coming out to Oregon to meet, to see you in person, because she sounds like an absolute hoot.
She's fun. She's a fireball, the yin to the yang. But yeah, you know, I wanna, you know, shout out real quick, a guy, Hogleg, who, you know, has been listening to the, oh, it's always backwards. It's like driving a damn boat, and I am not a captain. Who's listening to the show and heard me talking about, you know, my love of cheese. And so he's like, man, I've got this cross that I've been working on. It's a cheese times the BC Pink Kush times the UK Blues, which is also kind of a cheese.
Yes,
he's like,
it is.
It's cheesy every time. I'd love for you to try them. I'd love for you to have these. So add them to your, you know, because I'm stacking up cheese candidates because I want to find the cheese. And he's like, dude, pop that in there, throw it in there. And we're gonna just ignore the top word there. I don't know how to pronounce that, but this actually looks pretty fire too. And you know what? The Skittles, the Dark Heart,
absolutely,
cut,
and
fire.
Green Shock does some great work, and they're very nice people. So don't worry about that horrid word up top there. Just focus on the rest of the nice parts of that. For example,
but I may have to change my shirt when I plant them. But yeah, they're definitely on the I want to get to those pretty soon list too.
Well, and I must say, I really appreciate, as somebody who is who comes from a fine wine and spirits background for a profession, the Petrus that strain is named after right there. I couldn't help but appreciate that, especially as that is a very, very famous and old, outstanding but also outrageously expensive bottle of Bordeaux from the south of France. So but that looks like an absolute dynamite strain. And you know, it kind of makes for a perfect segue to one thing that I had brought up to Chad when he asked me to be on the show was, all these seed banks are trying to get rid of the stock that they have because frankly, it's not selling. People can't afford it. And it's just kind of like people, I mean, there's all these outrageous sales and stuff just to get rid of their stuff. And the sad part is, the reason they can't get rid of it is because it's bad, most of it. And that's it's untested. It's just it's not good quality. And so one thing I wanted to be able to bring up to help growers out there is give you guys a good to grow the Sweet Heat or the Inglewood cookies.
This is Florinug. He's on the Daga site as well. South Bay Genetics. He grows tremendous looking plants, and he uses cookies in a lot of them. And we kind of, well, I'm joking when we go back and forth about giving him crap about it, but no, dude, he grows fire and definitely has good genetics. So I saw him pop that up there. I'm like, okay, in all fairness, I'm gonna mention cookies.
You're getting rich this evening. You're getting rich.
I am. I'm making bank off this episode. Thanks, Burner. But yes.
But really, I just want to be able to give people a little bit more as far as, like, you know, being able to find the very and I'm not talking about like good bang for your buck. I'm honestly talking about some of the very best genetics that I have ever grown. And I have been growing for quite a long time. And I can tell you that the other people who grow this right along with me are people who have been growing since Vietnam, are absolutely astounded by some of this work. And one of them is a dear friend of mine, but his work is, it honestly is some of the most impressive breeding I have ever seen. And it really is, if you go on IG, if you type in Ozark Nation.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
I follow Ozark Nation.
His work is second to none in my book. I truly think that he's probably potentially one, he's one of the best breeders out there, period. And right now what he's working on is and I couldn't help but think of you with the cheese. Is right now he's working with a UK cheese cherry AK-47,
Oh, shut up.
that he's crossing into some of the most some of the most special and unique cuts there are, period. If you look through the cuts that he has right now,
There we go.
he does everything or completely organically. And yeah, that's exactly. So he's crossing in that RC Cola cut right there is one of the rarest cuts you will ever find. I have it in my garden, and man, it took a long time to get, let me tell you. And that is his very special Grass Valley Nepali hash plant right there that
Wow.
he is that he just, it's been a stunner forever. But one of the things that I just love about his work is the fact that time and time again the germination rates are just stunning on them. They are popped and moving within 24 to 48 hours, no question, all of them.
Wow.
And I honestly can't say enough about him. I could go on and on. But really what then it comes down to is the pricing that he gives and all the freebies that he throws in and everything else. I think he honestly sells his packs at like, sometimes you can get them as cheap as like 30-40 bucks a pack. And these are packs that, like, if they had any logo on them that was a Seed Junkie, Lit Farms, or whatever you want to call them, they'd be several $100s easily.
Yeah. It's I look at it this way too. It's like, if you pay $30 for a pack and you get an eighth of good smoke out of it, you got your money back. So I think that's highly possible. And you're right. This is something that, you had hit me up in the DMs and we were talking about, and I love the idea. And now I actually see him in chat. This is one person I mentioned earlier. Where were you, Hillbilly Herb? We're talking about the damn CBDs and the cherry wines. And I did get the camera up, not focus.
There it is.
But yeah, no, one thing that you had mentioned that we wanted to highlight is there's a lot of growers out there who don't have, the 100,000 followers, who don't have the flashy packages. But they've got just some fire stuff, man. There's so much untapped talent out there. That's why I love the opportunities like these shows to try to just like highlight them or just like raise awareness for them. And one that you raised awareness for me, and I'll bust these out here.
Absolutely.
Were these and I always say Kinetic Genetics, and every time I get corrected, it's 4 Wise Eyes or 4 eyes.
Well, so his thing is no, you're absolutely right. His company is Kinetic Genetics. 4 Wise Eyes is his name on Instagram. And he's been around since the old Overgrow forum days and some of the other forums as well. He's a Northern Michigan guy. And so I definitely have some love for him, and he's a very good friend. He's a good friend of mine, and he again is another guy, works his butt off, and is like I was mentioning with Ozark Nation. These are both guys that also donate to every charitable thing you can possibly imagine with seeds and with you just tell them where and when to send them, and they're there. And it's because they do care so much, and but they're also not out here trying to create some sort of ridiculous brand out of it. They do it for the passion and love of what of what brought them to the table in the first place. And you know, Four Wise Eyes, you know, has been at it for a long time, and he just, not only is he such a top-notch guy, but he is a his work is outstanding.
That's, you know, and that's cool. And again, it's like you've known him.
Yep.
He's been around for a long time. This was my first introduction to them.
Oh,
And you know, it was funny because I did get these, and I showed these on a couple of previous shows,
mhm.
and every time I've had responses in chat of like, oh yeah, and because again, they always correct me on the
Yep.
name, and they're like,
Yep.
yep, do it, you know, it's fire, doing great stuff. And I used to live in Michigan, so just the Grand Traverse tart cherry
Yep.
sounds interesting, because I remember going to Grand Traverse as a kid, and one of the people, I'm trying to get it out here, it's stuck. I guess this doesn't really count for cool seed packs because there's not in stickers. But another guy from Michigan who's, you know, I think under the radar right now. He does have a couple packs on the Daga site. He goes, Smiley's Angels is the name of the seed company, but Smiley Gardens, who's, you know, a lot of people maybe on this channel are familiar with him, but I don't think he's, you know, not a seed junkie.
No.
He's not, you know, capulator, but dude, he's got some fire. And again, he's a person that you can go and watch his grows.
Yep.
You can go and watch what he does. You can watch, he's out there trying to help and educate the community as well. And like, you know, those are the type of people that get me excited to support them.
100%.
And then when you plant them and you get fire, you're like, what's up, new best friend? How
Yeah.
you doing, bro? Can I send you a t-shirt? You know?
That's exactly right. And you know, there are a lot of wonderful people in Michigan who aren't the Gage Greens and the Thug Pugs and the other, sorry to say, but just not indicative of the spirit that is Michigan.
Right.
And because there are just so many lovely people here who really do care and really do want to see people doing well. And so you know, when I do see somebody like you know, Smiley Gardens up there, the Four Wise Eyes, I mean, those are, it's always wonderful to see that their genetics are making the rounds to people like yourself, to people in the chat, to people, you know, making waves slowly but surely, because that means that we're getting more and more of these great genetics into people's hands who might never have come across them otherwise.
And you know, it's common, and I've seen some, you know, comments that I've liked about Instagram breeders in the chat, but it is common to kind of see those, and I freaking spaced where I was going with that. It was a really nice sentiment too, damn it, I got all excited. Go team.
Woo!
I'll take a penalty toke. Yes, penalty toke time. But yeah, you know, so supporting people, it's cool that we meet in the community, because there's a lot of giving people, you know, in the chats, and sometimes up on the screens, and it's fun when you get to see and use those in the garden, and you're just like, well, damn, I didn't spend $500 on that. So maybe that was the question I was getting to.
Yeah.
Do you have to spend $200 to get fire genetics?
Absolutely not.
No.
The best strains, honestly, that I've grown from seed were nowhere near $200. They are, I mean, I can think of a handful of them off the top of my head. One of the breeders that comes to mind, that, you know, now he does work for a very large, he is the head grower for a very large company called Steezy, but is obsolete, is a guy that used to, I have his stuff sitting here somewhere, who did, he's been growing since forever, and I can tell you that some of the seeds that I have taken from here, of like this headband killer, for example, But really, a couple of them that come to mind are his alien tarantula is one that the plants that came off of that are hard to even begin to compete with, to be honest.
Wow.
This Irene alien OG crossed with the Irene Kush.
Mm.
I don't know if everyone's familiar with Irene Kush, but it is it's one of the very best OGs out there, in my personal opinion. But it is it to see it in such a pure form out of the seed is really special. And one of the things I really like about him is the fact that we talk about going on to the that wonderful site that shows us the lineage and of the different genetics that we were talking about, that you were just on, the EU dot you know what I'm talking about,
Yeah,
Chad?
Seed Finders. Yeah.
Yeah, Seed Finder. Thank you very much. Obsolete was one of those guys that never that didn't really share his genetics a whole lot. Like, there'd be a lot of strains that would go by, and one of them in particular that I grew out, that I can remember like it was yesterday, along with that alien tarantula, was a strain called Atom Splitter.
Huh.
And this Atom Splitter was, I've actually had multiple people say the same thing, that it was the greatest strain they ever grew from seed. And I have no idea what the genetics are on it.
Mm-hmm.
It was some of the most overwhelming smoke I've ever had in my entire life, and it was outstanding. And the plants were just something else. I mean, it was gassy. It was like taking the very best of a skunk and crossing it with the very best of a chem, and
Ooh.
mixing it together, and
Ooh.
just saying, and just like boom. And that's, yeah, I mean, I'm not kidding you when I say that, truly. So there are a number of really wonderful breeders out there who are not going to charge you an arm and a leg.
Mm-hmm.
Another guy who comes to mind for those looking for other alternatives is a guy who really could, is one of the things that we don't often think about is some of these people who are doing the breeding are really reliant on this for their well-being, or maybe they have some medical issues
Yeah.
that are, that they really do rely on their breeding work as a means of their financials. And one of the gentlemen that I really speak to here is Big Buddy Seeds. Big Buddy is a Canadian gentleman. He was actually, Bodie used his lavender strain
Oh,
for
really?
all of the lavender work that he ever used in his various crosses of, like, Lavender Jack.
Wow.
I know the what was it, the Lavender Aura, or something along those lines. And then there was a Wookiee cross that was in there as well. I mean, he used a whole line of his lavender in his work. And he now has done some work with a Lemon Larry lavender, which is just, I actually had a friend of mine, or I got to know a guy through this show, actually, who had got in touch with me, said, "Hey, you know what? I'd love to grow out something if you have something available." And I said, I sure do. I have a Garberville Purple Kush crossed with a Lemon Larry lavender. And so he started growing those out, and he messaged me just the other day and goes, "I cannot tell you, this stuff is some of the loudest I have ever come across in all my years of growing." And I was like, "See,
That's so
there you
cool.
go." I mean, and I think Big Buddy stuff is somewhere around like the maybe $50 a pack, something like that. And
Yeah.
and on top of that, you are helping out somebody who needs the help. And so, he is he is one of the real good guys out there. So I really do think that that's the kind of stuff that could be really helpful for not only your garden, but also for his living expenses as well. So it's a nice mutual deal there.
Yeah. And we were talking about, you were mentioning the gas earlier, and just some of the strength of some of these profiles. And I believe before when we talked, you're a gas guy. You were kind of like Dave, like
I
gas is your
am.
thing. So you're a
Yeah,
connoisseur of gas. It's not just like, oh,
absolutely,
it
man.
smells like a gas rag. You're just like, that shit lit my nostril hair on fire, bro.
Yeah, yeah. That and to be honest, we're starting to find bits and pieces of some more unique skunks out there, and I'm not going to get into the conversation of, oh, who found their RKS again and who did this and that, because it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It just doesn't.
No.
People get bogged down in these silly conversations because they do, and it's just silly. But when you're able to find some really epic, some of the as you just talked about, burning the nose hairs out from inside out, the old super skunk that used to make you just like, whoa, oh my gosh,
it hurt.
okay,
Right
that's exactly what I'm talking about. That this is the kind of stuff that is being asked for more and more in our community, and is something that I know for my team and I, that's something that we're really about, is trying to bring all these classic smoke strains back to everybody to be able to enjoy, and also for us to be able to let some of the seed crosses out that we do. We're not trying to keep it from anybody else. It's not like oh well, we have this and no one else can have it kind of thing.
Right.
The only thing that a lot of times what people will ask if they are kind enough to share a cut of something is, they're just like, what, if you wouldn't mind not letting out the pure cut of it.
Yeah.
That's my only ask. And so you always just, hey, absolutely wouldn't dream of it. Totally understand where you're coming from. And they'll be like, well, but please go ahead and do, any crosses, whatever you want to do with that. That's up to you. And
awesome.
So, those are the kinds of things that we want to get in people's hands again, because I think that's really where we had a bit of a golden age in marijuana at that point in time. There was a lot of really special gear that was coming up that, now is, now that we're moving, I think there's been a bit of a crash in some of the hype strains. I'm hoping people will start to look back a little bit and go, huh, you know what? I remember that, one of my, if you really look back and just go to yourself, what were the great top 3 smoking experiences of my life as far as the strains go, and think about what those are. I bet you a number of those are going to harken back to like a time when, say 10 plus years ago, when, and maybe it was because of the company and everything else, but I think a lot of times too, the strain you were smoking had a lot to do with it.
The spicy cannabinoids, and too, like you're saying, a lot of things, the market has dictated where the direction of breeding has gone, and a lot of those things were unknown or undesirable, so we have lost those. So when you go back to some of those, hopefully we can reintroduce those, kind of like I was saying earlier with my goal. I go back to that stuff to help reinvigorate,
Absolutely.
give the new generations more vigor. It used to be too, and the reliable expression, and we're kind of talking about price earlier, and hype stuff as well, and it used to be price kind of dictated that it was a worked line, like for a truly stabilized bred line. This is going to take you multiple generations. It's going to, depending upon how many rooms you can have, it's probably going to take you a couple years to get something, and the market moves way faster than that. So it's sad, but there's in the market, which isn't our craft people, and it isn't the people seeking medicine, because we have that commitment. But in the market, it doesn't pay to be a line breeder anymore. And you can, if you're slamming fucking Tom Brady and Giselle Bundchen together, your kids are gonna be cute, like, okay, but they're not stable. They're gonna be, they're gonna be on a freaking rooftop someday. So that's something that I kind of see a little disconnect with the pricing, though, because you're right. There is hype. There's a lot of stuff that is just, it's not tested or it's not worked. It's just hype. But that's what's seemingly getting the higher dollar value these days.
Yeah.
Whose fault is that? Whose fault is that?
To be honest, the fault lies with the brand marketing. Frankly, is that companies went out and bought themselves an army of marketers instead of an army of good growers, and because the growers will tell you what needs to be done to make sure that they are bringing a line of the highest quality to market. Whereas a marketer is just sitting there going, well, can I get Mike Tyson in front of it?
Yes.
Or can I have, some rapper do this or that? Or can I have, some athlete or whatever else? It drives me insane to see that kind of stuff. It's like, why on earth does that mean that that's a good product? Do you want to be like Mike Tyson? Like, oh my goodness. I hope not. That's the struggle is marketing came in, and marketing knocked quality work out of the what's most important. It's your fault, Chad.
I had to put that up. Damn it. Always my fault. You're right though. God, I'm earning my money today. $2. Cookies was the first brand I'm aware of that actually had an active marketing campaign.
Yeah.
And it worked.
Yep.
It worked. It's a lifestyle. It's a household name.
Yes.
They did everything right. They're fucking owning the space right now. The space is a little freaking short bus. Sorry, short buses. But it is, that's where the money's coming from right now. And it's weird because I kind of miss the legacy market days where really quality is what drove things, not marketing, because you couldn't talk about it. You couldn't post your pictures. Right? It was like,
no.
Yeah. It's like, that dude's whack, I'm going over here, right? So I kind of miss that aspect to it. And I hope this commercial market, once it opens up and people like us are allowed to thrive and flourish and not compete on scale with these MSOs, because they're always going to be there, but it's like quality, again, back to traditional days, quality speaks. Sure, you could go buy it over there for a little bit cheaper.
Absolutely.
But you want to come over here because it's better.
That's exactly the what you try to instill in your consumers, in your patients, whatever it is look, you know what? Go over there and try that stuff versus this, and come back to me tomorrow and tell me what you think, because I'm going to tell you that unless 99 out of 100 times, I'm going to almost guarantee you that you're going to be coming back to me going, wow, okay, you know what? I don't mind paying a reasonable price for what you're offering here in comparison. And it's just, right now the market is going through so much turmoil that it really is, the market kind of needs what you think of in farming and forestry terms as a controlled burn right now, literally. It needs to clear out all of these people, and it's actually happening. It needs to clear out all of these people who got into this industry and said, I'm going to get rich quick. Yeah. And now that they're at this like 1.5 to 2 year mark, the market for the a pound of weed in the legal market is absolutely tanked. Ridiculous. They're sitting there with a massive tax bill that they can't pay to the IRS. They have a huge balloon payment on their loans, and they're destitute and they can't continue. So I apologize for for bringing up financials on here. We're not the Financial Times, I or the Wall Street Journal, but exactly. But there is actually, I think, a lot of hope on the horizon for what you were just talking about with legacy coming back around, and the data out there suggests that. So I'm really hopeful that we will see the same thing. I'm right along there with you, Chad. I want that to be the case for all of us to be able to enjoy and have a piece of this wonderful community together, not sitting here cutthroat, trying to fight big companies over the little guy, so to speak.
Yeah, you're never gonna win on volume.
Nope.
That's just, get that out of your head. So it goes back to having, a good quality product, knowing
Absolutely.
how to do it, almost, again, going back to the traditional market where you monocrop a room, because it's so specific. And if you really dial things in, you could bring out that last like 2% of expression on certain things. But also, to the bigger picture, to kind of tie everything together, where we started with this point is supporting these small, craft, for lack of a better word, breeders, people who are just putting in that work that you probably haven't heard of, but you find through a show or you find through a community. Hopefully you learn of people here and you try their gear, and then you like it and you tell everybody. But again, to traditional market, why do you think cuts were held so closely? Because you had something special. And in the future, when it hopefully does open up and there's a lot of wonderful growers out there, you're going to need something special to draw people in. And we're better to find that from one of these, smaller growers that are still charging $40-$50 a pack, which is absolutely reasonable in my eyes.
100%.
Compared to some $200, $500. There is something to be said for, like fire packs or some of these, more expensive ones, if it's able to bring something that you want. But that's because these people have put in the work to make it that way and to pass on those reliable traits. So that's, again, price. I don't mind paying someone who's worked something for years because they've missed out on the market and they're just really in love with this plant. And so hopefully it's going to be special.
Yes, absolutely. And another shout out name that I can give you that I'm sure a lot of you have seen the name in various seed banks, but I'm telling you, please don't buy the gear from the seed bank. Go to him directly, because you will get his packs in seed banks are $200-$300 a piece. But if you go to him directly, the deal that he will give you on all your stuff is absolutely outrageously insane, and it's fantastic. It is Snow High Seeds has been around for a long time. Another very good friend of mine, and somebody who has dedicated his whole life through a lot of medical turmoil and other things, having to try and overcome, and is still has some of the most exclusive and unique genetics out there, period, no questions asked. And he does such a sweet combination of what is, like, you wouldn't call it hype necessarily in today's market, but it is more in the of a hype style. And then on the other side of things, he has 4 different types of Panama red, and he has Acapulco gold going back to the 60s. He has all that kind of stuff, and I have been running his gear for a long time. I absolutely love it, love him. And working with him via email is the best way to do his gear, and you will pay a tiny fraction of what you would if you went into a seed bank to get it. So my recommendation is, as a little hack here, is to go find him on Instagram, go and email him and get the lowdown of what his menu looks like. And from there, there are so many good genetics on that list that it kind of blows my mind when I look at it, and I'm just like, man, I'll take one of everything. You're like, this is insane. I don't know what else to say about it, but
Where do I stop slapping your hand? Enter.
yeah,
Enter.
exactly. So yeah, another outstanding breeder out there who doesn't get nearly the credit he deserves. Doesn't ask for the credit, either.
Right.
And that's the thing with all of these gentlemen that we brought up this evening is they don't ask for credit for any of this. They just do what they do because they absolutely love it.
Doing
And that,
to do it.
what else would we ask for from our these excellent growers, breeders in this community?
Yep. And it's cool. I think anybody on the human level, unless you like kick kittens, gets like a real genuine like sense of pride from that email or that DM of like,
Yeah.
hey, this helped me, or
Yes.
hey, that was a really good piece of information. Like,
absolutely.
That's why a lot of people do this.
Yes.
And you're looking at two of them.
Yes.
But yeah, those little things go a long way. So that,
do they ever?
that's all the motivation you need sometimes, because the internet can be pretty freaking wicked if it wants to be.
Yeah.
So for someone to go out of their way and take their time to say something nice helps. And so I try to make an effort to do that myself too, just because it's, not good karma. I mean, I do it even if it never came back, but it's just, I don't know, the right thing to do, I guess. Show support if you appreciate somebody. And so for showing support, we kind of talked about, it's great that we're mentioning some breeders now that people can look into. I also mentioned, your friends in chat, or following somebody on YouTube like Smiley's Garden. Are there any other ways that you've used, and you just kind of touched on Instagram, but any other ways that you've used to help maybe discover some of these people, or any serendipitous experiences where you're just like, hey, that worked out nice?
I will be honest that a lot of it really for me comes with just trying to build relationships with people. I come from a legal then entrepreneurial background, and so when you're an entrepreneur, to be successful at that sort of level, you really have to be kind of the go-getter person and really try to establish connections and network with people. And it's, it's all about being actually genuinely interested, because you're both in the same space and you both are passionate about the space. As long as you find those people who are going to show you that same sort of, as I like to kind of call it, like, we're nerding out on this stuff together.
Yes.
When you're able to find that common ground, there's I mean, there's so much that can be carried forward from that. I mean, that's how I had gotten to know pretty much everyone I have mentioned this evening, was through literally kind of doing a cold call with somebody and just like, hey, you know what? I think you do some amazing work. I really love the stuff you got going on right now. And at the time when I was looking for genetics, I'd be like, I don't know if you, do any, I see maybe that you do some breeding work. I didn't know, but it just seems like top stuff. And I'd love to be able to try some of it myself. And, sometimes you won't get somebody getting back to you, or maybe a long time from then, whatever. But, now a lot of people are also moving over to the Discord servers as well. So that's another great place to, because it kind of files things down very neatly into like, okay, Top Dog has one. Bloom has one.
So many places to be.
It's a lot of different stuff
good,
that you can check out and
that's true.
And kind of find like unique passions within those. And it's another way of kind of being able to find some nice relationships. I know that I've been able to kind of craft and and cultivate, if you'll excuse the pun here, relationships with people through Discord as well. So I really just I would emphasize to people to not be afraid to just get out there and put yourself out there with people. And and when you see something that looks really special, just give somebody a shout. And no one's going to backhand you for giving them a compliment about something. I mean, no one's gonna go, oh well, you're a jerk, blah blah blah. Like, I mean, that's not gonna happen. So like, if they don't get back to you, no big deal. Like, you just move on to maybe you see something else you like down the road from somebody else, or heck, maybe in a month down the road, he does get back to you or she gets back to you. And they're like, yeah, thanks so much. I really appreciate the love. I was just off of my social media for a while or something. And, maybe that spawns a great relationship too. So, it's never a perfect, like, there's no perfect formula, but the forum stuff isn't really alive as much as obviously it used to be. That was the place to be on the overgrow and stuff like that. I know they're still around, but it's not around to the same extent.
MySpace is still around too. Yeah. I mean,
that's true. That's true. So yeah, I mean, that used to be the place to be. I mean, that was where the most of it was kicking off, to be honest. But these other outlets aren't bad either. And there really are a lot of as we started this show, there's a lot of really good people in the community who really do care and just want to share their passions with others.
That's so awesome that you mentioned it. That's how a lot of probably my best relationships have come too. And I didn't even think about it because it's something that just happens naturally. It's like me and Dave have a passion for seeds. We love talking about it. He says, hey, let's bring James in. I could talk to you for all day, any day, by ourselves, anytime.
Absolutely.
Because we have that passion. It's just like you said, we kind of get to nerd out on it.
Yeah.
And that is, a bright side of the internet and connecting. Like you said, reach out. Just, don't be like, yo, dog, let me run your shit. Just be like, come on, man. Be a little more tactful than that. But you'd be surprised at the amount of people that are able to get back to you. And some people may not even run the account. Some people may not ever open the DMs because it's a black hole for them. So don't get personally offended and then go out and like slander people.
No.
But you'll be surprised. And that's how I've booked a lot of guests of just like, you dream, you want, and the entrepreneur's like, well, it's never going to happen if I sit on my thumb. So I'm just going to send an email.
Absolutely right.
Holy shit, they called me back?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for testing, that happens with a lot of testing. People will always need testers. But you got to be, good, not necessarily a good grower, but good at documenting it, good at being able to communicate it. One thing we're working on like right now is actually, I did just get some testers. We're doing a little FCP test group for these
nice.
from Myers Creek Cannabis.
Oh, beautiful. They do some good stuff.
I'm stoked here. It's called Lemon Degreaser, so I have high hopes for it. But
absolutely,
Peter just kind of said, hey, we need to put together a test group.
Nice.
Okay, let me call a couple of people, and these are all people who I've known and I respect, and I've seen their grows, and I think it would be interesting. I've got one person who does DWC. I got another person who is fully living soil. I've got another person who's like an award-winning grower. I'm in it too, so it'll be a good group. But people who make seeds always need testers. They're invaluable. And I've used a lot this summer for the Nakatomi Plaza. And I gave away more seeds of that I'm going to sell, but I don't care. It's okay. I'm a little overcautious in that sense.
Sure.
But yeah, if people are working on things, and people who do numerous strains per year, they always need testers. So long way of saying don't be afraid to reach out and just see what happens, and then
Yeah.
be prepared to follow through on your commitment. Because I'll say,
Yes.
like, one thing, I've got a video actually pulled up from this person, Trippy, who I think he was just asking me for the Westport grape juice for a long time. And I'm just like, no, I don't have it. And then I had the Nakatomi Plaza, and I hit him up and sent him out, and he's growing them right now. And he sends me awesome
Oh,
pictures, and he
nice.
sends videos. And I'm like, this person's, a tester for life. You find a good tester as a
Yeah.
breeder, and you're like, I'm always happy to give these persons seeds because I know what they're going to do. So
100%.
that's another tip. If you do get in, do a good job, because you'll probably be like tester for life in
Yeah.
that sense.
Yes. Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. And it's, it's always nice when you can people just really appreciate when you can dedicate that extra time to getting them, showing them weekly updates on the plants and stuff like that, and being able to keep notes, and being able to document certain aspects and certain traits that you're seeing. So it is one of those things where when you look to becoming a tester, if you're working with somebody who's like a pretty well-known brand or something, I would recommend that, like, it's not necessarily something for the beginner per se, but
Mm-hmm.
um don't be afraid to just try anyway, though, because there may be some guys who actually are like, what, I could really use people of all different grow abilities and
Oh yeah.
skill.
Yep.
But don't also get down on yourself. For example, like, if somebody is just like, well, no, man, you like don't have enough experience, and this is only for like super experienced growers, and
That
that's my
16 weeker I was given.
yeah, and that's my rad, joke voice there of the goofy, overinflated ego guy. And yeah, you're gonna get those too, and that's
Yes.
okay. There's you just shrug them off, and it's like, hey, whatever. There's always another person, so don't be afraid by that. But it's just important to always be trying with people, and just putting yourself out there and giving it a shot, because I mean, you can't you can't what's this, how does that saying go, you can't make, you can't or you can't make a shot that you never took, or
Yeah.
something like
Yeah.
that. and
Yeah.
and
Definitely.
and that's exactly the point, is that you can't. So yeah, I was just thinking, to kind of like, and with ending things, we gotta I feel like we've short ended the guys with not as many show and tell pieces here. So I was trying to pull out a
I was
few.
just looking around. I'm like, we've been having a great conversation. I need to should probably show some
Yeah.
seeds, but it's all been about how to find them and how to find new
Yeah,
people, because that's equally important. Like I
absolutely.
showed earlier. Hog leg.
Yep.
I've not seen his stuff. On seeds here now, but he reached out with something that I talked about that I'm looking for, and
Yep.
he's really likes it, and it's like, dude, this will hit the ticket.
Sure.
So I would have loved to found a new person just through this show that I could be like, well, hey, I've got this, why don't you try this?
Absolutely.
And you just go back and forth, and then sometimes you even get mails and you start collaborations that way, and then you
Yeah.
go back and forth, and it's
Yeah,
fun, man.
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, so I got some stuff going back to a little bog here.
Oh.
Little bog bubble. Got let's see, we got a few packs of the bog bubble. We got two of those. And then whoop, okay, there we go. Yeah. And then we got let's see, 3 packs of sour bubble. Boop,
Dang.
boop.
And so those now, have you grown out much of Bog's gear, or have you grown out either of those specifically?
So I have, yes, I have grown out. Excuse me. I have grown out both of those,
Okay.
and it's been a long time since I have, though. That was probably gosh, a number of years ago, that I had other packs of his gear when he was still alive. Um, and they are one of the great things about his gear is that it really was super fast finishing. Like I'm talking
Nice.
about like 50 days
I
worth
like
worth
that.
of, like just boom, done. And they are, yeah, and somebody just mentioned Lifesaver. I got a Lifesaver right here as well.
Yes.
Um, and a Blue Kush is
Ooh.
the other one on there. They are both of those are outstanding strains. The Bog Bubble is a big, you get a lot of bubblegum traits off of that. I mean, big time bubblegum
Like
traits.
flavor or like morphology?
Both.
Okay, that works.
If you've ever grown some of like the original Indiana bubblegum, for example,
Mhm.
it's very reminiscent of it. They're very it's a stout, it's a very stout plant. It's it they can go different ways sometimes with the bog bubble, though. It was always kind of like it just reminded me of like a really solid kind of Christmas tree style. It was not a super big plant. It wasn't yielding a ton, but it
Okay.
was yielding enough where like you got a couple solid jars out of it. I mean, at least I would say I was getting, off the old, HPS lights and everything, probably,
Mhm.
still. I mean, probably like 4 ounces off a plant, 3 ounces off a
That's
plant.
fine for a head stash.
Yeah, I mean, exactly, and that's what it was for. So, I have never grown the Blue Kush, and I have never grown the Lifesaver. The other thing that I did grow of his, though, that I've always been absolutely in love with, and another guy who took it, to another level, was Deadpan Head. If any of you are
Hmm.
familiar with his work, check him out. He does some absolutely amazing stuff. Also, a Michigan guy. I don't know if he's based in Michigan anymore, but he was from the Michigan area. And what is the LSD that they did?
Okay.
LSD
Heard that
is
one.
one of the greatest highs experiences I can ever tell you. It is outstanding. And so yeah, that's a cool older collection of stuff that isn't really out there for all to see anymore. And so
Yeah.
thought it was a fun one to share.
Indeed. Yeah. Bog passed away, I believe, a couple years ago.
Yep,
A lot of the seeds did go up on auction sites after
big
that.
time. Yeah.
Now, was there somebody? Because we've actually lost a lot. Well, a decent amount of breeders over these last couple
Yes.
years. But was there somebody? Was it family related that is still reproducing the lines, or is this somebody
So
else that I'm
his
thinking
from
of?
what I understand, his son did some like did a drop with one of the seed banks or something like that. I don't know
Okay.
I didn't follow up with it because I'm always suspect with kind of some of that kind of stuff. Like I don't know exactly where that comes from. I don't
Yeah.
want to. It always makes me wonder, like, especially if you're going to hunt them together, I would feel weird hunting something that you're telling me is coming from several years down the road compared to this stuff, which is, I want to say, I have it written on the back um, of this one here. This was 2014 for the sour bubble. So
Okay.
I mean it's been I mean, so I wouldn't want to put that with something that like is, being released in 2022 or 2021. Like that's just those are probably vastly different in a number of ways. So I always kind of steer clear with that. And so I don't know. I think he was trying to do some reproductions, but I'm not sure the whole story there.
Yeah, and we've seen this, many times with many different breeders where the original parental stock is lost,
Yes.
but they still have seeds. So then they pop that
Yep.
and then they make the cross and then they call it the same thing, which
Yeah.
technically by name it is, but we all know, dude, it's so hard. Once you lose the perfect plant, even if you have more seeds of it, you're
Yeah.
never just like, you get 99% of the way to that plant, but you never get fully get it. Cloning, kids, clone your plants. So
yeah, you know what, and tissue cultures are becoming more and
yep.
more of a really, really useful line. I know that that's something that we are very much working towards doing for all of these wonderful cuts that we've been able to acquire over time, to make sure that they will be able to be, you know, passed down for other generations to utilize. I love it if somebody was to be able to take some of this stock and put it towards, you know, whatever down the road. I think it'd be just magical if we could help to continue to further the experience for others to be able to have, you know, like one of my all-time favorite strains that I have in our mom collection, for example, is the original Federation Romulan. So the original Romulan, not the Romulan Joe Romulan, the original straight from Federation Romulan.
Wow.
And that plant is, I mean, when I say knock you on your ass and completely out, I mean it. Like, it is.
Wow.
And so to be able to make sure that that stock is still there for people, because it's very locked up very, very tightly. And I don't know, you know, who else would ever really be able to get their hands on it too much. And I would love, though, if it was something that, you know, somebody could use down the road. If I was no longer here or something, to be able to use it, then I would love it. And that's why we use it in crosses and other things. Is I can't let it out in a pure form. That's a promise that I made to the person. But I absolutely want to make sure that people get a chance to try it and to actually get, you know, a sense of like, wow, this stuff is amazing, you know. And this was something that was devised, you know. It's amazing to think that like the late 80s are becoming almost 40 years ago.
Dude, I do that every time, like a fucking album anniversary is like, it's been 30 years since Nevermind came out. I'm like, really? 30
I
years?
do it with all the Zeppelin and Hendrix albums and stuff too. I'm a huge album collector, so I'm right there with you. It drives me nuts. And I'm not that old, and that's what's even worse, is like I'm only, you know, in my early 30s, so
Man, I'm mid 40s, and I cry every time I see it's like 3 Men and a Baby came out 25 years ago today. It's like, fuck, I saw that in the theater. So yeah. Oh, come on, man.
Great movie.
Yes.
Great movie.
But yeah, it happens. I'm glad that there has been and, you know, bring it back to Bodhi. Bodhi is one of these people who helped start, maybe, or is part of the preservation conversation.
Yes.
Because we were going really quickly in one direction, and there were some people out there who consciously pulled the brakes, said, you know what, I'm going to go for old ugly stuff because I want to work it. And it's just fortunate. I see someone, you know, or Disbanded Brotherhood mentioning Island Sweet Skunk.
Absolutely.
That's, you know, and you mentioned Acapulco Gold earlier, and I had Jorge Cervantes as a guest. Another one of those just emails I sent, and I was like, holy shit, he answered. But we were talking about Acapulco Gold, and I say this, it's like, I've smoked it, I've been handed it, but I'm not convinced I've ever actually smoked Acapulco Gold. No. And he was like, yeah, because it's not pure. It's not what it was in the 60s and the 70s. So you haven't, but I'm sure you've smoked it, you know?
Yeah, it's a very good point. And you know, the stuff that goes back to, like, I have some of Bodhi's earliest, the second release that he ever did, only to family and friends, when he took Breeder Steve's Sweet Skunk and crossed it with shoot, what did he cross
it the God Bud?
it was something real early. I got it in here that I can
Bust it out.
Pull it out and show.
Let's see here.
Show some old world goodness here. Oh, is that funny or what? Here's the LSD that I was talking about.
Nice.
Yeah, I have it in here somewhere. I have all this stuff like it's all kind of put together by like this is all my preservation Bodhi work sitting in one area here versus some sitting in some of the other areas. Chad, why don't you go ahead and do one while I'm searching away here?
Cool. All right. Well, I'll toss up the this is what I was talking about earlier. The Nakatomi Plaza, that'll be coming out.
Very nice.
Should have gotten to Peter today, so I need to write up the description and send it over to him. Yeah. So that was a little bit of the Nakatomi Plaza. We'll give the shameless plug to myself there.
Hey man, I also love the graphics on the front of it.
Dude. I'm not scared about being shameless, so thank you. Yes. I definitely had to go with it, and I had to make sure that it dropped in December. And I did actually, and he was growing 2 of the Hans Grubers there. I had
nice.
There were 2 in the front, and then the Nakatomi Plazas were the 2 in the back in that video.
Yeah.
And I was going to release that too, but one of the testers, they just found something that they really liked, and they said, "How many you got? What do you want for them?" So that sold out before it became a release.
Yeah.
Not complaining, but
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Oh,
so did you find what you were looking for there?
I did. Yeah. So
right.
So this is this was what was called Little Blessings is actually what it was called, and it is a sweet skunk. Pretty much a heavy sweet skunk leaner, and then it is a where did it go?
So that's right. You were looking up the Island Sweet Skunk, or the Sweet Skunk that got crossed with Breeder Steve's.
With Breeder. So it's Breeder Steve's Sweet Skunk crossed with Talk of Kabul. So the old Afghan. So basically, like the old Afghanica. Okay. If you're familiar, the Talk of Kabul is a much less known. It's not as widely talked about as a lot of the other regional stuff is. Like, for example, like the Jalalabad Star and some of those other landrace heirloom work. But this was one of his first like shots at using a combination of a sweet skunk with the Talk of Kabul. So you're getting probably a lot of the sweet skunk in there. And I was very, very curious when I came across it, and this was a long time ago, and I have not popped it, but I probably at some point in time will, because why the heck not? I mean, to be totally honest, when you look at how much Bodhi that is in here, I mean, it's just like, dude, it's nuts.
Oh, let me big screen that again so they don't see me drooling. But
yeah, I mean, so you got these are all the Snow Lotus crosses that I have of all sorts of stuff.
The Snow Lotus, was there anything in particular that stuck out about Snow Lotus to you?
Well, Snow Lotus was I mean, my favorite stuff from Snow Lotus or from the Snow Lotus work was like his Snow Leopard was really good. I mean, he had I have a Snow Lotus back cross in here as well. He did 2 versions of that, which were both, I mean, pretty on point. Were both really, really excellent. And then I'm trying to think, what were some. He did a Nepali with it as well. I know that. And then And then here is the Appalachia crosses that I have of his stuff. So like just a lot of like I was always a big Appalachia fan of his work. And then you got just like some of the rare stuff that came from Mrs. Bodie, for example, over the years. And then some Mother's Milk work as well. And last but not least, well, certainly not least, is my Nepali Goji crosses. So whole bunch of some of the very best of, having a handful of Goji OG packs and Mother's Milk and all that kind of good stuff. So I will always love and appreciate the Goji or the Bodhi work, man. That's for sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say the Goji OG, and I have a cross in it, and I was going to grab the box that it came in down, and my Boof Life star,
Nice.
my Boof Life fell down on me. Shout out to DP. Boof Life.
Boof Life.
But so from Free Thinkers Conversation, it was a Goji OG times Duke Diamond's local skunk. Number
Nice.
16 or number 17, something like that. But yeah, that was one that he had sent me, and I threw a couple in the soil, but they both came up males. I'm like, damn, okay.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I
that'll
obviously
happen.
have more to work. But
Yeah.
limited times when you're just trying to quickly go through things to get a taste for it.
Man,
You're like,
yeah.
You just couldn't give me one female? Come on. But yeah, no, I'm definitely going back to that. He sent me some other really rad crosses too that I want to get to.
Yeah, I mean, you know what, that and then just having a lot of like the preservation work and stuff like that of just so many different strains, portable spaceship, God's paintbrush, all of like a handful of packs of like the metal haze preservation that he did, stuff like that where I will definitely make sure that it's run at some point in time, whether it's with some help from someone or with my group and team doing it or whatever else. Like I just this is exactly what you just mentioned. This was somebody putting the parking brake on the way that things were winding forward way too fast, and was them saying, hey, look, let's make sure that we give we give due deference to these amazing strains that deserve our attention and love for sure.
Yeah, because kind of how I understand it is, Bodhi didn't necessarily earn his good following or his good reputation because he sat there and he meticulously worked lines. He got his following and because he would go out to these places and he would bring back these land race type of things that we haven't seen and haven't introduced. So when you get your hands on them and you put them into other things, you really see some new expression. So
absolutely,
that's the preservation part. Again, it's not necessarily that they're all works. It's stuff that you don't have.
Exactly. And for people who want to hear a perfect example of that is Bob Hemphill and Hannah Bolt doing the Crickets and Cicada, they came out with a preservation of the Pakistani Peshawar not too long ago, and that was they got Bodhi's blessing to do that, because that was a strain that I actually have some of the original work from Bodhi of that preservation that he did, but he actually went there to return home with those seeds, and that's where they did originally come from. So somebody who has given that much time and effort to their craft is something to be honored, regardless of other motives or other things going on. I don't see Seed Junkie doing that, sorry. So it's something where I think that's really nice. And Johnny, that sounds like a fire, some firework, man. The Underdog is outstanding.
That's
Absolutely
up
outstanding.
gasoline alley for you, right?
Yeah, that's some really, really good stuff right there. Yeah, that should turn out lovely. That's that perfect skunk gas combo right there to burn the nose hairs.
Here's a tough question. I actually see Disbanded Brotherhood tossing us one in the chat. It says, what are y'all's most coveted packs you have in your collection? That's a tough one to answer right now, but is there anything that immediately jumps to the top of your list?
For me?
Yeah. Oh, I'm not taking the whole responsibility on that one. Come on now.
Yeah. So I actually, because I shared them with the last time I was on. I don't think I brought them up to my wife's office this time around, but I do have original stock of the very original Super Silver Haze, Neville's Haze, Neville's Skunk.
The birthplace of Sensi Seeds.
Exactly. They actually they come in the little straw wrappers that are burnt on either end. And I actually it was Shanti Baba who actually confirmed it for me. He's like, oh, just don't let those go. Don't ever let those go. He's like those are the real thing. And I was like, wait a second, really? And he's like, yes, they really are. Don't let them go. So, yeah, the original Super Silver Haze, the original Angel, what was one of them? It was Afghani, a Northern Lights Afghani cross that was done. And there are one or two more. Critical Skunk was one of them. So the old Critical Plus cross with that same skunk. And yeah, so I mean, those are like something that could go in a museum. Like they're like something that is the original Neville's and stuff like that. So that stock is it's pretty priceless to have. And pretty special. So
very
yeah, that's some stuff that definitely like to run in probably a tissue culture environment, knowing how old they are and everything else. But I'd love to see what could come of them at some point, and maybe something really, really special. Who knows?
Yeah, that's really cool. I've only ever seen that one other time before, and it's a person who's usually in chat, but the American one who has the biggest like memorabilia collection of anybody I know, and
nice.
He's old like me, so it dates back a while, but that guy's got so many just like magazines and like old like business cards, that type of packaging. It's got like original Super Sativa Club stuff.
Yep.
I swear he came on one of the episodes because I was like, Tao, you got to show off the collection. But that was the only other time that I've ever seen one of those originals before, still in the straw. So yeah, I'm juggling back and forth with my answer right now because initially, and I kind of already showed these, but the two, the Katsus from Bubba. Because again, if I find something that works for my stomach and my conditions, that's fucking priceless, dude. That's what it's been about this whole time. So that, but I also wanted to. Oh yeah, where are they? Where are they? Oh, I got seeds everywhere. These, which I kind of showed last episode with Mean Gene, was beautiful. Really fun. Yeah, it was really fun because I kind of got to pick his brain a little bit about open pollination and just ways to go about it. Because I am back from a trip to Mexico. And
beautiful.
Weed is easy to score in Mexico, and most of the weed will have seeds. So
absolutely,
this is one, and then this was another that was just called Kush. But these might be up there as far as my most coveted things right now, just because of what I experienced from this
Yeah.
and what I think the potential is. So
Sure.
yeah, so I guess right now today it's kind of a toss up between completely unknown, but
Yeah.
dude, I honestly think the skunk's in here, guys.
There you go.
Leprechauns. But also also these, because again, you know, I use the plant medicinally,
Yeah.
and that's what I'm looking for. And once I find that, I'm gonna just share it with everybody I can, because
Absolutely.
yeah, cannabis is an amazing thing.
It really is. It really is, man. Those are both great. I love the how different they are, but at the same time, the potential is there with both of them. There's so much potential, and that's what's so cool about seeds in general, is that there is so much potential to be had with this kind of stuff, you know, I have a number of those strains that you're talking about that were just put on business cards, and were like, and they're literally written out like on there, of like in marker or pen of what the strain was, and it's
That's
just
joking. This
it's
is my label.
yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, it was just like written over there, or like yeah, I mean, just a lot of that kind of stuff, but honestly, the stuff that I covet, or the stuff that I'm most excited about, is just when we're able to create strength, or when we're putting projects together that we really look at and go, this has some serious potential to be really helpful for a lot of people,
Yeah.
like truly.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so let's get to work and bust our ass on it. Like that's really where it comes from, is that, like, okay, fine, let's stay a couple extra hours and make sure that everything's done. Let's, do whatever you have to do.
Label the clones right. And yeah, Mean
Yep.
Gene's advice was, he's like, well, you could just open pollinate it and then just, mix the seeds and start hunting from there. Or you can open pollinate, individually label all of the females, keep those
Yeah.
seeds separate, run those
Yeah.
separately, because then you're going to know exactly what's passing where, versus
Absolutely.
the homogenized, oh, maybe I don't know what female this seed was from, and that. So a lot of work up front, but it's
Yeah.
going to save me probably years in
Yep.
the end, because again, I don't have a huge warehouse where I can have 20 rooms doing multiple cycles. So
No, exactly.
I'm going to put in a lot of work up front to save time later. So
Yeah.
yeah, again, this is kind of one of those passion projects. It's not necessarily market driven. It's something where I just want to go in and try to find something cool and then isolate it. And
Man,
that'll be my Mexican experience.
that's all that matters, man. It's all that matters. It doesn't, nothing else is. You're driven by passion. That's all that counts, and that's all that counts for all of us in here. You and I talking, plus anyone in the chat. It's the same way. It's just, that passion is what keeps us going, man, and keeps us searching for the next thing, or for whatever works.
Yeah, I think Raymond just freaking summarized the entire episode for us. I feel the need for seed. Hell
Well
yeah,
said.
buddy.
Well said.
Well said. Yeah, we're gonna, let's see. Yeah, we're about 2 hours and 15 minutes right now. You want to go another 15 minutes? Are you
Sure, man. Yeah,
okay? I
that's
know
fine.
you're stretching way later into the night than I am with the
Oh, that's
time
all right.
zone, but
15 minutes is at this point is no big deal, man. I can talk about this stuff all day and all night long. So you're not bothering me in the least. But
good.
yeah,
That's why I had to look at the clock, because I know we could do
yeah,
this for
right.
another 4 or 5 hours and still not be tired. But
Yeah, we're
yeah,
still sitting here just chatting
want to be
away.
respectful
Yeah.
of everybody's time. So yeah, but okay, so let's see here. Let's see, what do we got? So breeders that people might not have heard from. We've already pulled some things out. We had Kind Genetics. I pulled out some Smiley's Angels. We've got, the hog leg that came into me here.
Yeah.
You had mentioned a few breeders. We are talking about minor cannabinoids, CBD, THCV,
Yeah.
CBG. We had Seattle Chronic Seeds. We had Hoku,
Yeah.
Oregon CBD. Who else am I missing here that we
There was
covered on
Professor
this?
P on there from Relic and from
Yes.
Dynasty, and yeah, I mean that was that. I think that was it for the isolated cannabinoids. But then we got into just talking about overall quality of work, and that really comes down to um, you know go check out Ozark Nation. Would be my
Yep.
first bet for you. Then I would say Big Buddy does great stuff. Snow High has been around forever, and it's just you just get the best of both worlds with him. Let's see.
So, one more here that I had mentioned earlier,
Oh,
the
that's right.
Hillbilly Herb Grower with
Yep.
that cherry wine CBD 50-1. Not going to get you stoned, but I like the potential. So, stoked to have that.
Yeah, I mean, and one thing that was really kind was I was supposed to be at an event a few about like I don't know 5-6 weeks ago up in northern Michigan, and unfortunately my health didn't leave me in a place where I could make the trip up there. And one of the main guy who was organizing it is a good friend of mine, and if you go look him up on Instagram, his handle is the Chronic Connoisseur, and he put on an amazing event for people. It was basically a salute of for all of these small breeders throughout Michigan. It was it was basically giving them all the props that they are due, frankly. And so it was a big kind of get together. And he just put on a really awesome. He organized, I think, a lot of it and put on an amazing thing. And I had bought a VIP ticket for it, and I had just told him, I said, man, honestly, just give me just give my stuff away to whoever, let a buddy in, and just give whatever the packs are and whatever to a friend or to somebody there who seems like they're would be really excited by the gear and whatever else. It's okay. Don't worry about sending it down. And I already paid for it, so it's no big deal one way or another. And instead he sent me all of this great stuff. But one guy who does do a great job is Blue Star out of
Not heard of
Michigan
him.
here. And he one of his main strains that he did for a long time was called Navy Cross, and it was a really outstanding. I can't think of the genetics off the top of my head, but it was a really outstanding plant, and he's done several of them here, and he's local to Michigan. And it was cool to see his name in there. And then the guy this was very impressive. This Magic Bean Seeds, I thought he threw 3 packs into everyone's thing here of different stuff,
Wow.
and I thought that was very nice. I was his stuff is all kind of based off of
Cool.
other work, as far as like it's Triangle Kush cross to a Dire Wolf. This is an Afghani open pollination, and then the other one is like is a Star Killer OG cross to an AJ Sour Diesel.
Nice.
So nothing that we haven't seen before, but nevertheless still very could be very, very good quality stuff. If you put it in there, I'm sure that he's a very good breeder. And so a very nice and kind, generous thing to do. And to be able to give a shout out to some of those breeders who were kind enough to contribute. Marty was another, or I'm sorry, Four Wise Eyes was another one that was that contributed quite a lot to the pot as well. That was another person we talked about this evening who absolutely everyone should go look up, because his stuff is outstanding between the Traverse City Cherry and the he has another Cherry Kush, and then he has his Floji is outstanding. It's a Flow crossed with a Goji OG. So
Okay.
yeah, that's exactly good peeps up in northern Michigan. Absolutely, man. Yeah, just giving a shout out for the small breeder, but a really nice celebration that they did up there for honoring the guys that do put in a lot of this hard work that you're talking about.
Awesome. It's cool to have some of these smaller based events where it really is kind of the local folks. And that's
Absolutely.
kind of one thing that blew my mind too is, again, I'm on the West Coast. I'm not in California, but I'm in Washington, and I've actually lived all three
Oh,
states
have you?
on the
Oh,
West
okay.
Coast. But the cannabis universe revolves around California. So when Michigan has just come with this plethora of breeders over these past few years, and they've been doing it for a lot longer than these past few years, but
Yeah.
like the word got out to the West Coast, and it's like there's a lot of fire in Michigan, man.
Yeah.
Like, you guys have been hiding this whole time in a glove. Like, what the hell?
You know what? To be honest, man, it was because the crackdown on Michigan stuff was so intense that it was very hard to even want to expose yourself whatsoever to the question of of the law,
Right.
because it got bad for a lot of people very quickly, and so I know that there were a lot of people who just, the my mentor basically taught me everything I know about cannabis was one of those. He used to guerrilla grow out in the forests and in northern Michigan, actually, and
Wow.
he was the only, I mean, he was where I truly learned the incredible beauty that is original stock Acapulco gold. Because he had that stuff coming from the early 60s. And that was stuff that they had all the way back then, that he had worked stock all the way up from, that he had been working it for years and years and years and holding on to different plants, and then he'd throw them into different projects. And so, while it obviously wasn't the original that
Right.
that I was smoking at that point, but just to be able to have some of that of the expression of that from the original was, man, it was something special for sure. So
Yeah.
um it was a lot of, I think, a lot of hide and seek, unfortunately, in Michigan, until kind of, I even remember when I went and got my first med card, and it was in this really shady doctor's office thing, and was like, I mean, I was 19 at the time. It had
Right.
just become legal in the state of Michigan to have a medical marijuana card, but people were absolutely terrified to go and get them,
Oh
and so
yeah.
it was just kind of like a, it just
Yeah.
wasn't done really. And so yeah, now it's been nice that Michigan's been able to show a little bit more of what they have on offer, because I mean, Ohio was able to show out a little bit more. I mean, there were a number of strains that came from Ohio that were
Hmm.
pretty epic. I mean, the Death Star, um there was a really great cut of lemon skunk that came from Ohio, I remember. Indiana had the bubble gum.
Yeah.
So there were other strains from the Midwest that kind of like lit that up, and Michigan was kind of quiet in the background. So, except some of you guys may remember, if you're a good old head here, is the Pinconning Purple Paralyzer. I don't know if anyone on here might remember that or not, but it was it was a great strain that actually Moda Rebel did a creation of in seed form, and I have a pack of it that's just stored away, that I'm like, it's just for the vanity's sake of having it, to be honest, because it's like one of those things, as a kid, that was like, that was some of the best weed around, you know, even though I lived closer to Detroit. But after they dumped a bunch of cocaine into the AK-47, people ran far away from Detroit weed for a long time. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's not cost efficient, dealers.
No, it's not, and it scared the
That's
crap out of most people. So.
yeah, that's so they're responsible for all these Halloween bullshit stories. No, okay. I just see a comment too because I was thinking, you were talking about being sketched out about going
Yep.
and getting your card for the first time, and Florida Nugs. We ran in the same area.
Yep.
Dude, if this was 2011, we got our card in the same place. So I was up on Aurora Avenue, which for those who don't live in Seattle, Aurora Avenue is where the ladies of the night like to walk, and it's not your family neighborhood.
Gotcha.
But yes, Aurora Avenue in a house with shady doctors, waiting room full of people. They didn't care what you said. They're just like, $200? Thank you.
Yep.
And unfortunately, that is why our med system disappeared, is because it wasn't legitimate and people were stacking caregiver cards, and that ran a problem. So fuckers abused it, and they ruined a good system for people like myself and other people who needed a lot more than me. Now we have shitty rec. But yeah, that was like 2011, Florida. We went to the same place. So I guess maybe to wrap it up, what are the couple exciting things that you currently have right now at Joynt? I know it's all exciting, but a couple ones that maybe wet your lips.
So really right now what we're doing is we're kind of we're doing a bit of a reboot a little bit with a partner of mine left to pursue other avenues and whatever else, and so we had to kind of change course a little bit, but we've continued without we've continued to do the breeding and the genetic side of things in our own smaller way, and now we're just basically we wanted to wait for the market to snap, as I said, kind of control burn a lot of these bigger companies that just have no business in this space whatsoever. And to be honest, we got enough of the push forward by a lot of really interesting people here in Michigan about, doing this from a very craft standpoint. And so we are really pushing forward with that. And right now our some of the strains that we're working with are we have some really interesting a very special I-95 that we're working on, that we pheno hunted a significant amount of seeds out of. We as I said, we're doing a lot of the kind of building blocks of like the Kashmir Azad work. We are, keep an eye out over the next, 6 to 8 months. There's going to be some really interesting stuff, and I really want to be able to get some of it into all your hands and be able to let you, run it a bit more. And I want to be able to help out. Also, I had a blog started on our website, and then between some health things and a change of management, we had to kind of work on other things, and so that went a little bit by the wayside. But I'd like to be able to kind of get that running a little bit more for people, because the main thing that we want to get out there is education for the consumer, and be able to make sure that they understand at least the basic tenets of what this is all about, and why cannabis could be very useful for them. And also why you shouldn't be so afraid of it, and why it's not some evil drug that Nancy Reagan brainwashed you with.
Just say no. Nancy Reagan. That's where it came from, for those who weren't alive.
Yep.
Nancy Reagan. She gave us Just Say No, and Tipper Gore gave us the freaking parental advisory stickers. I'm freaking laughing, and you saw me probably almost stand up because I was like, oh, I don't have my wallet on me. I still carry my Evergreen Patient Network card in my wallet, dude. We did. We went to the exact same spot for our cards.
Oh, that is too much, man.
The cards expired, but it was the last time that they were actually issuing like ID cards for cannabis. After
Oh,
that, it went
wow.
to like an official state like
Yeah,
paper with
yeah.
watermarks. So I was like,
Yep.
dude, I want to show my card right now because it was the exact same place we got our freaking recommendations. That's hilarious. Sorry.
And no,
Sorry.
you're good, man. And I just once again, as always, Chad, thank you so much for having me on.
My
It is
pleasure.
always such a treat to come on and chat. And you know, the chat also gave us some nice some good references and some good questions too. And that's something that you can always reach out and ask too. If you ever, you know, Chad was kind enough to put that in the put our IG thing in there,
Yeah.
and there's also a yes, I do have an Insta. It's at Joynt Cultivation.
Oh, I
Um,
missed that one. Damn it. I'll pull that up here. I had,
no worries.
or did I put that one up?
I thought maybe you did. I'm not sure, to tell you the
Oh, there we
truth.
go. Yes, I did. Look at
Oh,
me.
perfect.
Organized.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, honestly, anyone, anytime, feel free. I always try to keep up to date with that. I will get back to you within at least like a day or two. Please don't think, please don't think, you know, that I'm trying to offend you if I don't get back to you in a day or something. It's not you, it's me and my schedule. So I got a 2-year-old running around the house and a wife and a job, and you know, it's just it's a hectic world. So but I really love being able to help anyone that I can in this space, and so don't ever hesitate to get in touch for sure.
That's awesome. And thanks for reaching out. And everybody, too, these are all also down in the show notes. So they're just clickable links. You don't have to remember it or write them down. Dude, thank you again, James, for making the time, for coming here and
Absolutely.
sharing your knowledge. You know, definitely well received. People enjoying the show. Dude, I can't get enough of this. So we're definitely gonna do this
Oh yeah,
again.
no. We
We'll go
just
for the three-peat.
yeah, oh,
Three-peat.
absolutely. I mean, man, you guys, you can have me on here anytime. Anytime Dave decides that, you know, he doesn't want to be a part of this, and you know, just have me come and take over for him, and you know, we'll just set Dave adrift, and that'll be fine.
Dave, if you're watching the replay, you just got outbid, dude. You
I
just
had
got
to
outbid, and there's 30 seconds left.
I had to throw something in at him. I had to throw it in at the end, man. I had to get him somehow.
That's why I love you, man. Oh, dude. Thank you, everybody in chat, for hanging out tonight. This has been very fun. I absolutely love the interactions that we do on this show because it drives the show. It gives us what we need to pull, what we want to talk about, and directions to go. So thank you for being part of that. You're the third box tonight. So
Absolutely. Yes,
much love.
100%. Appreciate having all you guys on there with us. And Chad, once again, love you, buddy. And
Yeah.
I'll be talking to you soon.
Cool. All right. Well, I will hit the end broadcast button here, but James, rock on, brother, and we will
Peace,
definitely
dude.
talk soon.
All right, man. Sounds good.
Peace
Bye.
out, everybody.